Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life.
And Professor Sunreis Productions!
Hello class, Professor Sunreis here. In today's class we're taking a look, oh my god, my hair, at the giant OTS winning deck I had with Bystial Control. I went 8-0 out of 205 or 206 people, so it was an insane one with Bystial Control, and I feel like it is very much worth it to show you guys the deck, even though it is very similar to the list I still had running, the side deck theory, and just overall I think my game plan into the region, not regional, but giant OTS is like very insightful for all of you Dragon enjoyers out there. So without further ado, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave some feedback down the comment section below, and let's get right into that profile. So here we are in the deck profile, and before we go into a card by card, I'm just going to quickly run over my matchups and also what matchups I did expect. In the first round, I had a Dinosaur. Afterwards, I had a Guru Control, then a Labyrinth player, a Sword Soul player, 2 Sprite, one of which was a Runic version, Brave Plunder, and lastly, I had a Kashtira matchup. So it was similar to what I expected. I expected lots of Sprite and Sword Soul and also Branded and less Kashtira. Overall, there weren't as many Kashtira, so I think like playing against it once or twice is what was expecting, but there was way more Sprite than there was Branded, so the top tables were just filled with Sprite players. So overall, these were the matchups I expected, and this is also why I prepared for them. Well, I didn't expect as much Kashtira just because it is by far the hardest matchup. I just had to over-prepare for that, even though I didn't expect as much. And let's just get into the card by card and see what I was actually playing. So for the Bystials, we had 3 Lubellion, 3 Magnamid, and the 1 Serenier, 1 Drewsworm, and 1 Baldrake. This is the ratio I just stuck with, even though Serenier is really good in this deck just to getting into access into Lubellion or Regain. You just can't play more than these, honestly. While they are better and better, even against Kashtira, I found out that they're actually quite good if you get to play, just because they are so big, and then they can just, Drewsworm can just crash into a Unicorn and basically out the whole field. In the meantime, if they have like a Fenrir with that as well, those are really good, like utility-wise and just like as the body. But as a hand trap, they are still solid in this format, but not as good. Baldrake was insane this tournament just because it is so good against Runic Sprite or Sprite in general, because they cannot really out this when it's on the field, and they can't go into their Gigantic. So I really like Baldrake and Drewsworm as well, just because it is in the standard combo. But Baldrake really picked up a lot of steam this tournament just because it was so good against Sprite variants. And yeah, and of course 3 Magnum and a Lubellion, because these are the best ones. I still play 2 Regain to 1 Branded Beast. The Regain was insane. A lot of people weren't expecting that. If we get even lead on the board, we just banish this one, we leave the Beast, we trigger the Seal, bouncing like a Lubellion, or maybe even the Regained if we can or have to. And afterwards, we just summon a Magnamid, and then we still have a Branded Beast plus a Magnamid against the opponent's turn, and we are guaranteed to survive, so that was really insane. And afterwards, we just get the second Regain out of the deck, and it really punishes people. And also, because we still play the Albion package, I wanted to have 2 Regains so that I can always send it with the Albion, so that I can always get the upstart up. So yeah, I really like this ratio. Always side 1 out going second, because then you don't need it. But I kept the Regained and the Branded Beast in just because the deck is so low ceiling-wise. I didn't want to get rid of any extra ceiling I had in the deck. So that's it for the Bystial package. Now for the Chaos package, I play 3 Safer, best card in the deck, of course. This card just opens up all of the combos which you want. It is super good into 2-card combos with any of the level 8s, because there's just so little Bystials in the meta, where I feel very safe to just go for Safer, pitch a Lubellion, and then link it off, and then get the Lubellion back, and that way you can get access into all of the other level 8s in the deck, so that's really good, and I really like this card for that. 3 Chaos Space, of course, also insane. It searches Lubellion, it searches the Chaos Dragons to get into Seal. It lets you draw into hand traps after thinning out your deck. Really solid card, of course, and also turns like dead hand traps like Veiler or Nibiru, if you play against like Labyrinth, into like just meaningful cards, because you can just cycle through that. So these cards are insane, and are the reasons why you want to stick at 40, because these cards are just way better than a lot of the other cards in this deck. Then of course the Chaos pack, the mini Chaos Dragons, these are really solid in this deck, because with 2 Regained, you have a very much higher likelihood of keeping than recycle infinitely, and you can just keep on summoning 2 bodies in a turn, which really helps with OTK pushes and just playing through stuff. and then lastly 1 Chaos Emperor Dragon. This card was insane. It rarely ever bricks you just because it is just a one-off and the deck plays inherently very little bricks. But this card is just my go-to search target of Magnamid in my opponent's turn. So in my own turn, we always search a Druze Worm or a Baldric, depending on the end board we have. If we have access to Branded Beast, it's always the Druze Worm. Oh, let me put them in here. So if I have Branded Beast / Masquerade, I will always be Druze Worm. If I don't have that, I can just search a Baldric in my turn, and then in the opponent's turn, after we triggered Magnamid of either the Seal or the Regain, which you should always be able to do, I will basically almost always search a Chaos Emperor if I have the setup, because this card is just insane. Because afterwards, you can just search the last missing Bystial you have. So if you've used Druze in the opponent's turn, you can use like Safeguard and Rebellion in the graveyard, or just Chaos Emperor adding back a Rebellion to search a Baldrake, and then you can slowly but surely recycle through all of your Bystials in every turn. Then you can summon 2 Bystials plus this, which is already OTK. This card there can only be 1, which is one of the few ways we can actually out this with this deck, like in engine. This card is just really solid overall. It being just be 3k, so that it's OTK together with access code is really important, and overall just the OTK this card enables is very important for this deck, just because it is a very control heavy deck, and it can run into time quite easily if you don't have the extra pushes with cards like this. And also, it is an extra dark for the Chaos package, so now you have 2 light targets in Rebellion and Wyver Burster, and 2 dark targets in these 2. So I really like that utility as well. And that's it for the Chaos package, giving you the 6 1-card starters you needed. But of course 6 is not enough, so I still play the 3 black metal and the 1 red as darkness metal. This is definitely worse than the other package, but they still do have the benefits. Just being extra 1-card starters into Seal, of course, is very good. Problem is they don't bridge into the Rebellion at all with nothing, so they are just standalone cards. But this is a 2.8k beat 6, so this is also OTK with access code. This can revive a Bystial out of the graveyard, so I would always at least play this just because you can search black metal with the Magnamid, and then on the crackback, if you summon this on the board, you can get to revive the Magnamid out of the graveyard. You can also go for some nice OTK pushes. But yeah, overall, this is definitely worse than the Safeguard package. But the deck, I'm not sure if it lacks consistency, but it highly appreciates the extra consistency, because we don't play that many normal summons and that many ways to get going. So having the extra ways is definitely appreciated in my opinion. And then for the last Dragon package, I played the 2 Albion and the 1 Albaz. This package is mediocre, I would say, but I still think I would play it just because it opens up the engine so well. Safeguard plus any level 8 is super strong, also either this or the Rebellion, because you get to go full combo with Regained and Branded Beast plus a Seal, which is just insane. This just being an upstart is really helpful to get going. Sending Albaz in a pitch to get to Bystials going is really cool. Drawing cards like hand traps is really solid if you've thinned out your deck and giving you that extra disruption. And Fallen of Albaz is a really solid card. It's the only card which we can out a Rise Heart with. So Magnamid can search this so we can out in a Rise Heart if we have something like an Imperm with it, which came up in the finals. So that's really cool. And it's just a solid disruption of Seal, or you can even summon this of a Tomb to break boards and OTK. So I really like this package overall. And also Albaz is just a normal summon. Sometimes Captain Ups where just normal summon this. Basically like a recharger, which is fine. It's better than not playing at all. So I like that. And then lastly, because we need to get into the game against Kashtira, we did play a lot of hand traps with 3 Imperm, 3 Veiler, 3 Ash, and 3 Nib. These all were insane. Nibiru is especially insane going first, because if you have Nibiru plus your endboard, you will never lose, just because the deck inherently has so much follow-up. It is insane. Ash was insane the whole tournament. I did not play against a branded player, but it is still very solid. And then the Veiler Imperm are probably the best ones against Kashtira. I still wasn't quite sure where to hit them. There was all of the Kashtira players there were Kashtira Rise Heart control players, so it was very hard to hand trap them effectively, because basically any extender makes them get there anyways. So I usually just stuck to hitting the Fenrir, because Fenrir searches the extender. But these were really solid, apart from the Nibiru against the Kashtira player. But I would probably still keep the Nibiru in, because my side deck plan resolved around them me removing their bodies. So then they would have to use their extenders more aggressively, so they would start to play into Nibiru. And overall, against everything else, Nibiru was insane. Just like all of the other hand traps were. And I decided to play hand traps over board breakers just because our deck is so low sealing wise that our end board can definitely be cracked if we only have seal plus Roost from Branded Beast. But we definitely need the 1 or 2 extra disruptions and hand traps to stay in the game and not fall behind too hard and tempo wise on board, because we will always outgrind them. So resource wise, we will always be ahead. We just have to stick ahead in the tempo department, and the hand traps just really help. Then also hand traps are not bad this format. Board breakers might be a little better, but then again they're also on the decline. And our hardest matchup, Kashtira, prepares for the board breakers with stuff like Eagle Booster and what's it called? The Forbidden Lands. So I really like the hand traps just always being alive. And if I've known how to use them correctly, they would have been even better against the matchup. For extra deck, Striker and Pisty, nothing fancy about them. I still always go for the Pisty. It confuses people so much when I just link into a Pisty. I thought about just linking into a Striker Dragon and not searching, because of course you don't play that, baiting them, because all the people were thought I was playing Dragon Link. Even in the final round, people still just saw dragons and thought I would be Dragon Link, and they didn't know I was just playing Bystial Control, which is really cool. But the Striker Dragon is so much more important in turn 2 or 3 to link off into a dark, so I decided not to confuse my opponents, because I don't think it's really worth it. It's like such a weird resource to evaluate. I didn't think it would be worth it to play suboptimal to maybe confuse some people sometimes. 2 seal, you don't need more because you can recycle it with Chaos Space or Regained. And also, this format is not as grindy, so I didn't even think I recycled this once, or I didn't need to recycle it at all, I think. And especially because we played the Chaos Emperor, we can close out games way faster as well. There were a few games which were very grindy, but I didn't need the seal for those. One Masquerena, still played. I think I only summoned it once or twice. I think, yeah, once or twice, but it's still there if we have the very gassy hand with lots of extenders. We like to go for this to just have additional disruption and force out battle phases even more and just survive off that. So this just being like a threatening roar is really good as well, honestly, unironically. Then the Dark package, mandatory in my opinion, just because it is ways to turn bodies into disruption / into something to force out back row. For example, against Labyrinth, I always like to go for this route. Dark can always summon something. You can summon a loop out of the opponent's graveyard, and then you can search your Branded Regained, which is insane. And overall, these just force out stuff, so we can throw our resources into them and force out the opponent's disruption, and afterwards then we can maybe go for a Lubellion, get a Branded Regain, get a Branded Beast, stuff like that. I really like that. And also, this is the out against Mirror Jade, and this is the OTK tool, so these are just really solid overall. And then I play one Appaloosa. This was there for corner cases. If I did a Masquerena board, sometimes I went for that. If body disruption is not as good, then I would use like the regained body and the body, like the Druid Worm I summoned to go into Appaloosa with a Masquerena, trigger the, remove the one body that on field, and then I have an Appaloosa for 3 there. Didn't go for it as much just because it is kind of susceptible to talents, and I didn't want to go for that. And also I didn't summon Masquerena that often in this tournament. But this is also really good if I go for a Unicorn to out a Mirror Jade to just still get onto some disruption, at least like negate the Lubar they have or something. Can be really helpful. But overall, I didn't summon this at all, so you could definitely cut this for something else. But then again, the extra deck is not really that needed in this deck. It's just basically Seal and maybe some XZs. But speaking about XZs, I would have liked to have some more, I think, because against Kashtira, I was running out of them. So let's get into the Atu. Really insane card. Just getting access to your whole deck is insane. Fan, really important to out annoying stuff, and also is higher than Kashtira monster, so you can run over them and make a Zeus. Definitely very important to have that. I would like to maybe get an XZs into there, which is good against like a Forbidden Chalice or like a Forbidden Lance. That way I can more safely go into a Zeus route. Then we have the Gaia Charge Warrior. Also, this is a dragon, so if we use Fan as a toolbox out to anything, we can overlay into Gaia Charge and still make a Zeus, a Seal or a Zeus, and a Zeus. I should have made this in the finals way more. I was a little scared to go for Zeus control against Kashtira in a simplified game set, but I think it is way more game winning than I gave it credit for, and I lost one game because of that, because I didn't go for that. But overall, it was still fine enough, and I won the finals against Kashtira, even though I misplayed quite heavily. Definitely gave me a lot of room, because I was struggling very hard and I could have played that so much better. But I mean, it's the final round. You know how it is on tournaments like these where your brain just stops to function at all. And then lastly, we have the Albas package. I went for this once the whole tournament, and I didn't need to do that. I could have also just summoned Black Metal Dragon. I still think I had it in the deck. I just went for it for style points. But like I said, the deck has so much room in the extra deck, and it doesn't need Lingo Rebo. It basically plays the extra copies of stuff it need anyway. So we have 2 Seal and we have 2 Link 1s. We don't need more than that. So just think like playing all of these cool cards, which have some niche applications and are really good when they are applicable, just helps so much. I really like this package just because going second, if we like maybe don't simplify the game set enough and the opponent has lots of big bodies from the extra deck, just going into a Seal can out them so easily, because Seal in the opponent's turn is just so strong. We can, like against Swordsoul, for example, if they have Grandmaster Baron and we baited the Baron, we played through like a Blackout on the Monk, but we couldn't out them because we didn't have anything else. Like our Bystials are not big enough to run over them. We just make a Seal. In the opponent's draw phase, effect Seal, bounce Grandmaster, and then effect Seal, summon Albas, fusion summon Baron and Albas into Mirror Jade, and suddenly we have cracked the board and we have a disruption against them on the crack pack, which is really strong. And they basically won't be able to OTK us through this, probably, just because we can hit them so effectively with that. So I really like that about the Albas package. And like I said, we have the extra deck space, so we didn't need it. We got some tokens. Shoutouts to Daddy Colossus. And then for the side deck, I was really happy with the side deck. I built the side deck the day before. Shoutouts to Robert for helping me build it. It was really good. So because we really lose against a Rise Hard control, I think my side deck patterns against that are like unorthodox, and like really like you would think, okay, it's not that crazy good against this deck. But because we need it to be to just somehow stop it in a Rise Hard, and normal hand traps don't really get you there. Board breakers can be stopped by Eagle Boosters / Forbidden Lands. I need to do something else, so I played 3 Gamma and the Driver, and 3 Contact C. Contact C, of course, is really good against Branded as well, so that was also a bridge for that. But the Gammas were really good in theory against Kashtira because we could just remove the Fenrir, or like even the Unicorn, depending on how they play and how they start. And it just really makes it hard for them to continue playing, or at least making a Rise Out afterwards. And at minimum, they have to run into a Nibiru with that, just because it is removes so much of them. And Contact C is also really good once they've used Theosis. They're XZ locked, so they cannot make a Rise Out anyway. So I really like these hand traps. I didn't see them against a Rise against Kashtira, but overall Gamma was also really insane because I played a lot of Sprite, and was also like my go-to flex spot against any random deck. So I could always, because our siding patterns, we can always easily side out 2 Albion, 1 Regained, and then 1 normal summon, or 1 Albas, or maybe a Bystial, depending on the matchup. So we always easily had 4 flex slots available going second, so the Gamma just really fitted in there nicely to any random deck, like Sword Soul, Sprite, whatever. I was randomly playing like dinosaurs. So that was really solid. And Contact C, I only sided against the Kashtira, and I didn't see it. But against Despia, this card is insane. It basically is like a second Ash. Not as good as Ash, but it gets there. And then for going first, I played 2 Anti-Spell. This card is insane because it protects your backer from stuff like Feather Duster and Lightning Storm, which is not as popular. The problem is Evenly Match is very popular, which we inherently beat quite well, just because we can use Evenly to get one of our resources back, and then can still leave the Branded Beast going. If we have an Anti-Spell, we are kind of forced to leave the Anti-Spell on the field just because it is so good against Kashtira and all of the other decks, like Branded. But because it is so susceptible to Evenly, and it plays a little weird into Evenly, I decided to pick up a Pointer. We always have a card in hand with Magnamon, and a Pointer, in theory, was really good because our deck has very minimal disruption, but if we use the disruption perfectly, we will always win, and a Pointer made us do that just because it gave us the knowledge we wanted. So I really like that about this part, and also it played around Evenly way better, because if we take a look at their hand, if they have an Evenly, we just leave that there, we just take away the best starter, and then they Evenly us, we definitely survive, and we still have Branded Beast plus Magnamon resolved, and we just win off that, because there's nothing the opponent can do afterwards. So I really like that. I didn't see it once the whole tournament. I think I saw the Pointer like in a random game set in the grind game, but I didn't see those at all. But in theory, they are really good. And then lastly, I played 3 Cosmic to out Imperial Iron Wall against Labyrinth, or like stun decks in general, and 2 Lightning Storm. I decided to play Lightning Storm over Evenly because of Imperial Iron Wall. And of course, Labyrinth players were on the Lord in the Sky Prison, but I figured I can play with one dead card against them. I usually do pre-side anyway with all of the hand traps. I can play with one dead card, but I cannot play under Iron Wall, so I decided to play Lightning Storm and the Cosmics. And also Lightning Storm is like my next generic card, so a lot of times going second against Swordsteel, for example, I would side in these 6, and that they would be really good against those matchups. So that's it for the side deck. 15 cards, of course. Main deck is 40. I don't know if I said it. Yeah, I said it. Anyways, so yeah, like I said, went 8-0, and the deck was incredible. I only really struggled with consistency in the first few rounds. Afterwards, it was super consistent. The seeding was just perfectly right for this format. Bystials are still very solid disruptions, especially on a regional type level. And I think going 8-0 against 206 players and playing against meta, or what we can call it, like this early meta 5 times, it's like a perfectly solid result for the tournament. So I think it is a very realistic approach to say this deck is definitely a very solid meta contender, or like at least a rogue deck which just plays against the meta so well. If I would have had to put it into a tier, I would probably say it's like a solid tier 2 deck. It very hard struggled with the Rise Hard control, and this is definitely what you have to build this deck to beat around. I don't know if I would change up my hand trap lineup in the main deck, because while a Rise Hard control is the hardest matchup, it is not that popular, especially here. So maybe you have to go for like you have to do some mental gymnastic if it's worth it. Maybe if you're in America and the local is way heavier populated by Kashira players and they all are on a Rise Hard control, maybe you main the Gammas, maybe you main the Contact C. But here for my regional meta, this was really solid. Just having the very generic main deck and then using your side deck to beat your hard matchups was really what I liked about this deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. Thank you for all of the support and all of the believers. There are like a lot of non-believers which think this deck is ass. But I know you guys out there, you love the Bystial Control. And I also saw it getting some traction on the DB Grinder channel, and also I did a collab with Hakuna Matata, so maybe some of you guys who watched me on Hakuna Matata are now on this channel. Hello, welcome. We are the Dragon Enjoyers here, and Bystial Control is definitely the way for the Dragon in the future. Hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. Class is dismissed. You guys are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace.